Grill, a treatise on a better world. Forward. To many who open this text, they will expect to find humor. It is unsurprising, as grilling is a popular meme in many circles that discuss politics. Though we will get into grilling theory in this text, I would like to declare to the reader that we will be covering this subject with the same attitude towards what I will call semi-irony. Semi-irony, an interesting and somewhat modern social behavior, is where the perception of what you say as a joke is based upon the reaction of those around you. Here is one such example. We will assume the existence of three characters, Alice, Bob, and Charlie. Alice will be a neo-Nazi, Bob will be a leftist, and Charlie will be a radical centrist. Alice: "Hey guys, I saw this great comic about this character who, quote, didn't do nothing. Did you catch that? Lamau, black people are dumb sometimes, am I right?" Bob: "Whoa, that's pretty racist." Charlie: "Yeah, that seems a little crazy." Alice again: "Wow, I can't believe you're actually falling for the sensitive leftist games here. I was only joking. I didn't realize you hated freedom of speech so much, Charlie." Charlie says: "Damn, you're right. My bad. I wouldn't want to hurt anyone's freedom of speech." Bob: "What the fuck?" This example will not read everyone it reaches, but I accept that. To put it simply for anyone who does not understand the example, if you think I'm joking, I am joking. And if you think there is anything of value to what I type now, then I am deadly serious. Let us grill. Audiobook Editor's Notes. The next section of the text will be discussing the meme, which, by its very necessity, will require some kind of visual representation. That visual representation has been made available in this video, and it should be thrown up on screen now. The nature of grilling. What does it mean to grill? Really think about it. The title of this pamphlet will depict the source template of the internet meme, but to those who are unfamiliar, I will link the original, according to the Meme Archival website's resource as of July 6, 2020. Depicted here is what is believed to be the original incarnation of this meme. Our protagonist depicted, let's call them Griller, is impugning the mass media institutions for covering major events of the time. Interestingly enough, they will cover various major issues with equal impunity, as no issue is treated as more severe than another. Let us run through a few. Racism. The belief that one race has higher moral worth than another. Racism is, at the time of writing this, largely considered to be bad, or at least considered to be not good. Shootings. At the time of production, it is likely the meme is making reference to the large number of mass shootings going on in the United States. The later inclusion of the term KKK, denoting the white supremacist terrorist group in the United States, makes it more likely that this meme is pertaining to America. Mass shootings are, at this time, universally condemned by almost all members of society. Socialism. To describe socialism would be to put myself at odds with 10 leftists, who would give me 11 different definitions of socialism. Socialism will be, for our purposes, workers of a given business controlling the means of production. This means the production of commodities, so think businesses, steel plants, tailor shops, and in general anything that produces an item humans utilize. And the decommodification of products over time. An example of decommodification would be the recent push to decommodify housing, to guarantee it to all citizens of, in this instance, the United States, free of cost. This may lead to an increase in taxes, but citizens in the system would not be expected to pay beyond their taxes to receive the good. Socialism is, at this time, disliked by almost all far-right groups, and somewhat disliked by most centrist liberals. KKK. A far-right white supremacist terrorist group. The KKK will likely be in history books for a long time, so it does me little utility to describe them in much detail here. The KKK is favored by far-right groups, but it is extremely disliked by liberals and leftists. Griller has impugned 4 different types of things the media covers, and while the first 2 are largely non-polarizing and agreed upon ills of society, the last 2 are more divisive, with socialism in particular becoming less controversial by the day. The equal criticism of both socialism and the KKK places Griller as a centrist, being somewhat left or right depending on your perception of the issues in question. Take notice now of what our protagonist promotes in the next phrase. I just want to grill for God's sake. Griller has, through prior criticisms, posited grilling as having two fundamental characteristics. It is apolitical, but also centrist. Many will criticize this as a contradiction, saying that all things in the real world are political, as we, dare I say it, live in a society. The criticism is valid, but it does not invalidate the whole concept. There are activities humans partake in that are not inherently polarizing. Take, for instance, the grill itself. Grills are heated objects meant to cook meat and vegetables in a way to achieve a desired taste. Grilling produces food to be consumed by humans. More than that, you can grill for meat or vegetables. If you make the contradiction criticism, then you would assert that grilling is political, but grilling and consumption of food are activities you'll see far-left anarchists participate in along with your far-right fascists. Grilling is therefore an activity that can be participated in equally by all humans in various ways to pursue a value. You can have a good time grilling, no matter where you come from, and this is the nature of grilling. It would be ridiculous to assume, however, that grilling is only limited to the physical grill itself. People will occasionally like to watch sports and hang out with their friends. They can go to the park and relax by themselves or with others. Humans can meet other people and form lasting relationships. People can talk to others about their issues and how they can personally help, whether it's fixing up the house or watching the kids while they're gone. The key to grilling is that when you grill, you do not seek to change the minds of those around you. You seek only the escape from the world of the political, or as Griller would say, I just want to grill, for God's sake. The Grilling Theory of Happiness, GTH. What makes people happy? The question is undeniably complex, to a point where asking it feels patronizing. It is important to point out that there will be no truly correct answer to this question, as every human has an individual experience, though you may find similarities with certain groups of people. I, as a student, feel happy whenever I hang out with my friends. I take a lot of personal joy in cooking food and playing video games. I know others who do the same, but maybe watch anime as well. The answers will vary person to person, but interestingly, most answers will be grilling. Remember that by grilling we refer to the generalized participation in activities with no political purpose, or whose consequences lead to no political outcomes. I would not advance leftism by grilling up a tenderloin, nor would I advance right-wing thought by cooking a fine ribeye steak. We will consider a different question with what we know in mind. What makes leftists happy? What makes right-wingers happy? Well, these people have clear political directives in mind that they wish to see advanced. Leftists generally fight for the equality of all people and the strength of our democracy, while right-wingers will generally fight for hierarchy, to see the social order preserved, and to ensure the right people end up in the right positions of power. These are very contentious, so it is thankful that this is wholly irrelevant to the point I intend to make, which is that leftists also play video games, and right-wingers also watch anime. It is a fact that these people have political goals in mind by how they are defined here. Let me ask one final question with regards to this. Would they still have the same political goals were they made reality? In other words, would a socialist still prioritize the seizure of the means of production in a socialist society? Well, sure, but their relation to the goal is different. The Founding Fathers fought for a revolutionary war to begin the experiment of liberalism, and as such could be described as very political. Liberals today don't fight the same way the Founding Fathers did, however. Sure, we have people today who support democracy and capitalism simultaneously, but they don't fight the system in the same way the Founding Fathers did. It is because their ideology is the dominant ideology, that they do not engage in politics the same way leftists or right-wingers do. These classical liberals, the centrists of today, through the favoritism of the current system, seek one thing: grilling. I know, big assumption. Consider the original criticism in The Nature of Grilling, the prior chapter. Griller was angry with political extremism as a concept, or anything that deviated from the center. They pursued happiness through disengagement with the political system, or in other words, through grilling. It is now that we are finally able to posit our central theory, that people are fundamentally happier when they grill. The average leftist spends many hours fighting for social change that is likely years away. Right-wingers seek to put society back to a state of perceived former glory. All forms of work, all forms of non-grilling that do not intrinsically provide happiness. In the same way, a person would derive happiness from watching JoJo. We are now ready to pose central values to this text. Maximal grilling. I trust that by this point you are familiar with our definition of grilling, so we must ask, how do people grill? What does it mean to value grilling as a society? Let us put forth a few descriptive statements in line of some of what we have said. Anime has been a frequent example of grilling. Anime requires at bare minimum a screen that is connected to electricity. Most people would consider sound to be necessary as well, and the time to watch it as well. You cannot truly grill if you can only watch one episode of JoJo every year. This text will therefore establish itself as pursuing positive freedoms as opposed to negative freedoms. A society that legalizes murder will be more free in the sense that there is more the citizens are allowed to do, but less free in the sense that more people will be killed, some while grilling. With the GTH, or grilling theory of happiness, as prior for this chapter, we can end this chapter sooner than most by declaring the pursuit of grilling a viable and valid path towards happiness. The ways in which we pursue grilling will be utilitarian. The world is ultimately a harsh place, filled with KKKers, socialists, shooters, and racists. There will be times in this philosophy, as you are to read, where we will need to consider tough decisions. There will even be times where we may not be able to pursue grilling. It is in these times in human history that are truly the darkest, where the survival of a group of people is in jeopardy, and they must give up the comforts of what they find happy in life. The tragedy of the choice does not absolve us from the choices, however. We can only hope to understand what we can, and hope to do better in the times ahead. Let us move now to central values. Audiobook Editor's Notes. The original text uses a fully filled red flattened isosceles triangle to illustrate a flat hierarchy. To better illustrate the point, the audiobook editor has chosen to utilize a different illustration that will remain on screen for the chapter, with additional detail to better illustrate the idea. The original triangle is available in the original text, and will also be made available in the video description. Liberty, freedom to grill. It should be immediately obvious from both the historical and pragmatic approach to grilling why we value liberty. Historically, Griller in the prior shared meme condemns shootings as undesirable. The killing of a person, while sometimes justified, is ultimately a grave act that prevents that person from ever grilling again. The taking of life is, as such, antithetical to liberty, and is thusly condemned, because the people who are shot and killed cannot grill. It may seem reductive to state this, to make it this obvious, to spend this long explaining this point, but it is necessary to ground our axioms and our suppositions, to ensure our ability to have proper discussions, as nuanced and finely grained this approach may seem. It is also a conclusion we can reach from without the context of the original meme. Authoritarian states are well known for their inability to facilitate grilling. You may wonder if I am taking a side with this, but I assure you, this is only a descriptive statement. Consider the hierarchy of a feudalist kingdom. For a given king, you have a court of, shall we say, 50 lords. Those lords have some sub-lords, and those sub-lords have peasants beneath them. It is important to remember that the number of peasants vastly outnumber the king. Illustrated here is a representation of such a flat hierarchy, where the peasants are many, and the rulers are few. These authoritarian governments have only passed a minor code on taxing tea to make a third of the population enraged. When they do this, they incite an incredible number of people against them. The peasants and commoners they rely on to produce their wealth. With so many below the aristocracy and so few within it, the system is more vulnerable to revolt. Therefore, we created a system where revolts occur frequently under feudalism, and you can't grill with your buddies when you're revolting against poverty and mistreatments. Audiobook editor's notes: equality, grilling for all. I would like to take the time to remind the reader that this text was written semi-ironically. I say that only to illustrate that this chapter in particular proved to be quite challenging to read. There are many repetitions and many typos present here, and as a result it is difficult to interpret at times. I've decided to leave in the mistakes in the audiobook in order to preserve the authentic experience, but you may find listening to this particular section of the audiobook complicated. Equality, grilling for all. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is from, allegedly, the Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. Equality is a motivating and positive-sounding concept, doubtlessly socialized into us over our time on this earth, but it is important to remember that it has true utility. Our goal is maximal grilling. Grilling involves action designed with no political intent in mind, and as such it transcends all lines, racial, gendered, etc. The ability to pursue grilling is therefore not only related to, but indeed directly related to the principle of equality. We need true equality of grilling opportunity in order to maximize our grilling, because without equality, there will be people born who live in conditions that necessitate less grilling. This is out of line with any rational desire to see humans grill to the fullest of their extent, and even if the inequality is not applied directly to you, it will still impact you indirectly. There exist many people today who have friends that are not the same race as them. People, as a consequence of attraction, also often find themselves with partners of the opposite gender, and even those who don't, right away, are often interested in connecting with those they are interested in. I submit that not only is there almost always a fundamental self-evident empathy present in all humans for those they are friends with, but that it is in the self-interest of all who grill to pursue equality. The ability for racial minorities to grill allows them to enjoy activities, which is of course intrinsically nice. It is also true that even if you disagree there, it is in your interest to promote grilling, because it increases the odds of you finding a grilling partner, romantic or otherwise. How irrational would it be to write off half of the population because when they grill at night, you can't see them, or when you grill at the party, they seem to be unable to dance? Very. We must pursue equality for ideally the desire to make the lives of others better, but if that is not motivating enough, do it for yourself. In short, grilling is merely privilege extended unless enjoyed by one and all. This was definitely said by Vladimir Lenin at some point in the past. Brotherhood, the camaraderie of the grill. People are fundamentally social beings. This is not a universal truth, but rather a very strong, nearly universal trend. Consider the last time you grilled. I write this during a time of global quarantine, where the coronavirus runs amok, impairing all of our abilities to grill. So you likely watched a television show, or did something you could do from home. Many of you will have done something alone, and some of you will be completely content with this. It is doubtlessly a fact, however, that many people were unhappy. They wanted to be with other people, to express interests, and meet others that are similar in this regard to make connections. Our ability to make connections is one of the most important traits to being human, and it is this trait that we must seek to prioritize in any grill-based ideology. Grilling is fundamentally intended to make people happy, Refer back to the grilling theory of happiness, or the GTH, in the prior chapter for how this works. It is undeniably true that people are happier when they grill together, however, so many of the challenges to grilling that we will explore are framed around how people are kept apart from each other. It is a crime against humanity, grillmanity, that we are separated by stronger forces that would see our grilling reduced. Without getting too much into the rant in this chapter, I will say that brotherhood is a very important value that goes under-discussed in modern discussion, and it remains something we must discuss to connect with people our ideas on grilling. In short, grill with others whenever you can, and do what you can to ensure others can grill with others. Grilling is good, but grilling with friends is great. Contradiction. There is a flaw in our modern-day understanding of grilling, and it all comes into the meme. We must not allow ourselves to impugn the memer, for we have much to be grateful for. It is thanks to their work that we are inspired to write this theory and put in the labor necessary to understand what makes us happy and how we get there. It is unfortunate then that the meme assumes a just world. Let me explain what I mean by this. Today in America, many people live in cities. Rent has been going up in cities for a myriad of reasons, but wages have not. Cities still have coffee shops, factories, and yes, even grill shops. These grill shops require employees who will be compensated a wage so low they are unable to live inside of the city they contribute to. Is that just? I assert that it is not. This worker has no freedom to pursue grilling, so they have less time, and likely have to spend more on transportation, making them unequal. And when you have to dedicate more time to making a wage, you have less time to grill and develop friends and relationships. There are many examples like this where the world is not a just place, a place where justice is met out and people are happy. We find our fundamental values under attack at all times, and not just from people who are handling the system wrong, but the system itself. I hear you asking, wait a minute, how is this a contradiction? The original comic does not appear to insert a moral imperative to not act. You would be right, it does not appear to tell the reader to not act, but it glorifies inaction. Griller is the protagonist, but their act of heroism is just wanting to grill. You see, our values are threatened every day, but we grill because we seek happiness. The glorification of inaction directly stops our ability to grill, because it allows the systems that inhibit grilling to continue. It forces me to realize the most painful truth about life, and what I will leave off this chapter on, that in order to grill, we must stop grilling. If we are to build a future where the average person grills in happiness and joy, forms meaningful connections, and grills to their maximal ability, we must take action to bring about this future, because the world today is not a world where grilling is encouraged, and every day grilling is attacked by those who would profit from us not grilling. It is a sacrifice, but it is a noble sacrifice we must make. Methodology. The world where grilling is facilitated is a world where we uphold equality, we pursue brotherhood, and we respect liberty. The way that we get there will likely be difficult, but it would be imperative to identify the major institutions that limit us. The first place that would be worth looking towards is business. The government you are subject to is likely more powerful than any given business within your country, but the businesses are where us who grill spend most of our time. The autocratic business is flawed like the autocratic government, facilitating and bolstering discontent and depression, not because it is evil, but because it cares only for profit, and not its employees. It is these institutions we must liberate ourselves from, by standing as groups of people and demanding the rights we deserve. No longer will those who grill be made to work unnecessarily long weeks for far too low a pittance, so that the owners may grill as much as they please at our expense. Our governments are likely a next major target. There is a web of international alliances and partnerships that our leaders pursue to ensure the power of themselves and their party. Many of these alliances and partnerships are great, as they facilitate the trade of important goods needed for grilling. Many of them unfortunately lead us to hurt our grilling ability. We wage war in foreign countries for the profit of a few companies back home. We do this because the companies are powerful and influence our elections. And they are able to do that because we wage war in foreign countries for their profits. It's circular, and it's intended to work to their profit, because that is how they grill. This, and indeed many aspects of our government, must change. We must proselytize and spread our values. Grillism is a new ideology, but these values are centuries old, and very well proven to make humans happy. We must work to spread grill consciousness and ensure that our ideas are reflected in the general populace. It is a fact that an individual cannot stand against the whims of society, and we have been made to think that our happiness, freedom, equality, and fraternity is subject to the profits and desires of the profitable and the powerful. The major conclusion of the lie is that this is an inevitable fact of life, but it is simply not so. As a final note, it is important to remember that our ideology cannot rely upon those who would give themselves up in their entirety to the movement. Grill when you can, grill equally, grill with others, and grill freely. It remains ever important to live by our ideology, if for no other reason than because it makes us happy. Audiobook final note. I'd like to thank those of you who have stuck around and watched the video, read the text, or thought about any questions that were raised in this book. It is clear, and I want to reiterate it for the final time, that this book was written semi-ironically, somewhat as a joke, but with aspects of the truth underneath it. There's a common saying that every good joke has a little dose of reality. Ultimately, if any part of this has connected with you, if you see it as a joke, then, of course, you don't have to listen to any of it. And if you do like some of the ideas presented here, then know that I don't intend to make the ideas less valuable. I don't impugn equality, and I wouldn't do it if I were you, because some guy who wrote about grilling happens to talk about equality as well. No. You can respect the joke even if you look at the ideas and say, wow, this guy did it as a joke, but actually, some parts of it sounded alright. I really have no idea how this will be received. In truth, I still do this mostly as a joke, but I still think about some of these ideas, how we could establish a world where people don't feel the need to engage with the system because, for them, the system does alright. I don't really have anything else to say about the book. I just wanted to thank you again for listening to the book, and while it is obviously a joke, maybe consider some of what it says.